We're live. Chase, we were going to do this at the Huntsman Center right after on the court or in the media room or something. If you're watching on YouTube or Spotify or X right now, you can clearly see we're on my basement couch, Chase. And it's not a pretty sight.
You know, everyone always says like great takes from your mom's basement. Actually from Carter's basement.
Yeah.
So take that, haters.
Yeah, sick, huh? It's cozy down here.
It's a great basement.
It's cozy down here. Welcome to the dojo. Chase, let's just get right into it. BYU lost. They lose in overtime by 1, 73-72. Had so many chances to win this one. Both teams did. Credit to Utah. Utah pulls it out. They were the better team in the end. They had more opportunities and took advantage of them. Hunter Erickson knocked down those free throws at the end. The thing we need to start off with, though, is I think this loss is on us, apparently.
I was going to say, the worst part is that it's actually our fault.
Yep.
It's actually our fault.
We gave Utah bulletin board material. That's our fault.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll defend my guy, JT.
It's not on JT. It's on us.
Shouldn't have put out the clip, huh?
It's completely our fault.
We should fire our producer.
Yeah.
Because that same producer also forgot the audio equipment to bring to the game tonight, and that's why we had to record in my basement.
Yeah, not a great day for that producer for a lot of reasons, but mostly because I mean, I think Kevin Young even said in the press conference, he's like, if it wasn't for that clip, I think we win tonight. Just kidding. Obviously a lie. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about the clip that came out today. You all have seen it on Twitter.
Yeah, if you're tuning into this episode right now, you saw the clip and saw the reaction.
If you're tuning in, if you also heard like the live podcast, and maybe you heard the live podcast, or maybe not live, excuse me, but you've watched the podcast. I'd say like maybe half of you did, but you know that look, JT's the man. I don't think he meant anything by it. He certainly wasn't trying to rile up Utah. And I think the consensus, I think we all felt the same way about going into that game. But I think some context need to be shared. Like he still said very much later on, which a clip we didn't put out, which maybe we should have. And that's, again, it's on us, not on JT at all. That he said, like, when it's a rivalry game, you throw everything out the door. Utah's going to come out hungry and physical. And we said that in our Utah preview. And that is where we were very right.
And Utah was the hungrier dog tonight. We talked about that, where Utah had a little bit more, not a lot to lose, and it was all to gain for them, really. And BYU, they're on these fringe bubble conversations. And tonight, I think their bubble is popped, and I think they're firmly outside the bubble, staring the NIT in the face.
Yeah, they're you're not going to see the letters B, Y, and U all together on Joe Lenardi's next bracketology update. It's not even going to be on their consideration.
And we'll talk about them going forward and stuff about, whether they can make it to March Madness or not. We talked about the importance of these games. We'll get into that in a little bit as a bigger picture. But let's talk about the actual game and what happened tonight and everything. First half, grit and grind, gritty, ugly first half, just gross basketball all around, honestly, for both halves of basketball. But it's a rivalry game. It was intense. It was a great environment at the Huntsman Center with both sets of fans there. I don't take much from the first half, to be honest. It is what it is. You're up 3, whatever. It was fine.
It was fine. And I think, like I said, like there's really 2 outcomes in rivalry games. Either both teams come out scorching hot, or both teams can't hit the broadside of the barn. It was the latter. I mean,
yeah.
And it was just shaky all the way. And I think everyone on both sides were just finding their footing. But what was noticeable, I think, early on was the pressure Utah put on defensively. Really forcing the guards and putting pressure on them early, making them make decisions early on. It took BYU a long time to settle onto the offense. The craziest part, though, like they were still in it because Utah, not throwing any shade, they couldn't hit a shot in the first half.
No, they could not.
I think they made 1 3, and everything else was just clanging. And BYU was actually decent on the boards in the first half. And they played decent defense, and we're keeping up with what Utah was doing, which kept them in the game. But BYU never pulled away offensively. Every time there was just a smidge of momentum, the next offensive possession seemed to just be again, that muddled down ISO ball. You're dribbling and you're doing action, but nothing's really happening. And the first half was just low scoring on both ends for that reason.
I think a big thing you can point to for this game where I think it kind of turned for BYU, and I think where the coaches are actually going to watch the film and be like, that was the issue there. I don't think they're going to look at the Jaguar shot at the end or Nell missing a free throw, or even they'll look at the Dawson shot probably, but I don't know if they'll necessarily care about that stuff as much as the first 10 minutes of the second half was Utah was dominant on the glass, dominant in the paint, and basically actually the entire second half and overtime, BYU could not stop them in the paint, could not stop fouling them, and a lot of people are going to pinpoint to the free throw discrepancy, but a lot of the times, one, BYU would get switched and it'd be Dallin Hall on Asar or, a smaller defender on a bigger player, and they would have to foul, or they would just foul on purpose like they did at the end. So I think the foul discrepancy isn't really the key there. If you want to pinpoint to officiating, I think the only thing you could really point to is the Hunter Erickson foul at the end. That really did change the game. But at the same time, I mean, BYU had their chances to do it. They got their call back on the other end and just couldn't get it done and make those free throws.
Yeah. We never like to blame refs, and so I won't. It's not the refs' fault. Like you said, that call wasn't the best call. But neither was the Trevor Noah one, right? They literally gave BYU, like you said, the chance. And, Utah capitalized on their chance. BYU did not. And that ended up being, you can say that was the difference. Listen, you could have won the game. There was 39. Actually, there was 44 minutes before that point. You could have won the game.
Yep.
So you don't want to put it all on Trevor Noah there in that moment. I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. But you're right, Carter. It was the beginning of that second half. BYU just got, I don't know a better word than like punked, and they were just getting beat up on the glass. And shout out Utah, because they were absolutely owning the boards. They were getting anything they wanted in the paint, and they were finishing those shots too around the rim. I mean, they were incredible inside of 3 feet. I mean, I didn't see them miss too many of them, took full advantage. BYU jumped at, I kid you not, every pump fake.
Yep.
And Utah made them absolutely pay. I mean, Asar ended up with 26. Lovering had 13 and 7. It's they had an incredible game, and BYU had absolutely no answer. And I think, for BYU, you were worried a lot about 3-point shooting, especially from guys like Madsen. And that actually wasn't cooking for Utah.
He went 1 of 11.
1 of 11. And there were a couple players there that hit some big threes in big moments for Utah where it finally came through. But BYU was prepared to play, I think, Utah on the outside in. And Utah, I think, in the second half made the adjustment of like, we need to be playing inside out. And obviously paid off.
And they knew the officials came out early on in this game and in the second half. There were 9 fouls called before the under 16 timeout in the second half. And Utah realized that, hey, they're calling a tight game. Let's go in the paint. Let's get physical. They're going to give us these calls and they were calling it pretty consistent for that entire game. They said, we're going to call it tight, rivalry game. We're not going to let this get out of hand and everything. And Utah took full advantage of that tonight. But both teams, holy smokes, man, they stink at free throw shooting. Stink.
Awful. And that's the thing. You can be like, oh, Utah shot more free throws. It's like actually ended up being a disadvantage. They shot 56%. If you think about it, you shoot that clip, a free throw is actually at that point bad for you because you are only getting 1 point out of possession now on average instead of the chance at 2 points, which is whatever you're shooting at a 2-point percentage. And let me tell you, in the second half, Utah was shooting 2-pointers pretty dang good because they were shooting them from 2 feet away and they were hitting all of them. So, you can be like, oh, Utah shot way more free throws. They missed half of them.
Yep.
And so I'm sure they're not happy about that. And it ended up working out BYU favors because the Utah missed so many free throws. BYU sent it to overtime, and then they had a chance to win it in the end. And obviously didn't on BYU's side. They didn't shoot too many. I mean, they only shot 10, but they only made 4. A couple of them are the front ends of one-on-one.
Three of them were front ends of the one-on-ones.
Look, that's obviously the story. If you want to pick one thing that they lost on, you got to make your free throws. And it's been all season now. We've said this after every single game.
And we said this before going into conference play was watch out for this free throw shooting. Teams that shoot this poorly from the free throw line are not successful in Big 12 play. Look at a team like TCU right now. They can't do anything right now because they're averaging 64.4% from the free throw line. Still somehow beat this BYU team. And yeah, I mean overall, man, like let's be honest, BYU shot 78 times in this game. I was just looking at that, but let's be honest, man. This season's been an utter disappointment so far. It's what it is.
Yeah, you can't really sugarcoat it. You're now 2-4 in conference, and it was, I'll just say, a favorable beginning of conference play. One of the most favorable in the entire Big 12. And it's not just that you're losing them, it's how you're doing it. It's either, if it's not free throws, it's turnovers. If it's not turnovers, it's just these silly mistakes and bad defensive rotations. If it's not that, it just compounds and combines. And I think they fixed some things tonight, but one of them caught up to them. And yeah, I mean, I don't know where you go from here. I don't know if I'm just going to say stunned, because I did think there's obviously a chance Utah was going to win tonight. No one wrote them off, despite the belief from some people that this podcast might have. But if you
we both said it would be a 1-point game.
You listened to the podcast. We knew it was going to be close. But this loss feels worse than it is, because at the end of the day, it's quad one, and you're thinking, okay, like the quad one loss, you got a lot of those. This loss is worse than that. It feels way worse.
This loss is worse for so many reasons. Number one is you finally felt like you were getting your confidence back a little bit against a bottom dweller in the Big 12 Oklahoma State team. Okay, fine. You get a double-digit win at home. You do what you're supposed to do. You get it done. Okay, great. The momentum's starting to shift up or whatever. And Utah, they're hitting their stride right now. I think that's their third straight win, if I remember correctly. So credit to Utah. But BYU, things are looking a little better. And then you have this big game on the road against your arch rival, and you lost this game at the very end last year. This game was very reminiscent of last season, by the way, but a lot of PTSD there for a lot of BYU fans, how that game ended. And then you have this game against your rival. This can be a great confidence booster. You can finally pinpoint to your resume and say, we have a quad one win. We are able to win on the road. And everything should have came together tonight for that, and it just didn't. And it's the same story over and over and over again. And eventually, you know what, man, you got to win on the road. Yes, you can always say if they made this free throw, if they didn't turn the ball over there, if they would have done that, if doesn't matter. You got to win some basketball games. And I think that's why this one hurts the most, is they finally had momentum and it just came to a grinding halt once again. And it feels like you're back to square one.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, and Kevin Young mentioned this, he's done this after the last couple of losses. He's like, look, we've been right there, a couple shots fall this way or don't turn the ball over here, whatever. We're talking about a different team. At the end of the day, though, Carter, you have what I'm seeing is, and what we can tell is, like, you have the skill to hang with these guys. Like, this is a talented team, deep, talented team. At the end of the day, like, Utah punked you tonight. They wanted it more. They absolutely wanted it more, and that showed in the end. So I don't want to say BYU doesn't want it, because they do, but they didn't want it enough. And the teams that just want it more, who are just willing to go and like just die for it, find a way to win, and they win these games. And we now have a sample size of them in close games where we're like, I just don't think they're going to win. And you can't even point to a stat.
It's a feeling. It's like whenever there's a quarterback with 2 minutes left and it's a tie ball game, you just know whether or not they're going to be able to lead their team down the field and get a field goal and win the game.
Yeah, it's like when you watch the Chiefs play, if there's 30 seconds left, you're like,
Mahomes has got this.
They're going to get a field goal off.
Yep.
Right? Brady was that way. Whatever. Teams and just feelings like this, because those guys are special, but they also like Jordan's this way. They would just die. They would die before they lost. And BYU, I don't want to say they don't want it. I don't want to question these guys' like desire, but it's just grit. It's this unintangible thing that you have that puts you over the edge, especially in close moments. Like, that's when you band together, when you check your balls and you say, all right, it's time to go. Mm-hmm. And we have to win a ball game now, a hostile environment, wherever. and BYU hasn't done it. It's just not happening.
I think it's just a big one is confidence. Since look at every close game this year. You look at Ole Miss, you look at Utah tonight, you look at TCU, you look at Texas Tech. They have failed in these big moments in their biggest games and close games every single time. It's almost you just want to see one go their way, and then okay, does that change going forward? Because we've seen at the end of these close games, Kevin Young has gone to a different person at the end of all of these games, and it was Dawson tonight, it was Foose before, it was Yegor before. He's gone to different people at the end of these close games, and they need to find someone they feel at least semi-comfortable going to at the end of these games, because they exude zero confidence the second it's time to 20 seconds left, your ball, take a shot.
Let's talk about those two. They had the two like end of regulation and overtime. End of regulation, they come out of timeout. They actually run a fake dribble handoff for Richie. He takes it baseline. Really aggressive move by Richie. I thought it was a pretty good take. I thought he even maybe warranted a foul there, whatever. Took it, missed it, but Foose was there for the cleanup, and they ended up sending it to overtime. Let's talk about, and I think that was like a good call. And you go to Richie, who was hot, who you could say was your best player on the floor, and Foose was there as your cleanup guy.
When was the Yegor pass to Kaba where he missed that little floater?
That was earlier with I think they were still down one.
That was like a minute 30.
I think it was a little less time than that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can look.
Was that the possession before Baker?
I believe that was.
I can't remember off the top of the head, but
it was the possession before Baker.
Either way, that was a big possession there too. Kaba gets a pretty good look. To be honest, not that upset with that shot. That's a pretty good look.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Dawson Baker shot. So you're now, I believe there's like 17 seconds left coming out of a timeout. It's your last timeout. It's in overtime. You're down by 1. So you just need a bucket, right? And they come out with Dawson Baker at the top of the key, gets a screen from Foose, gets the defender on his back. And I'm sure the message there is like, look, like just run pick and roll with Foose. Dawson, like there wasn't like a shoot it here, there thing. It's just like create, see what's there, figure it out. I thought Dawson got off it wasn't a bad look, about a 10-foot, 11-foot floater.
He was looking for the foul.
I think he was going for the foul. And look, it was sat on the rim that I thought like, it's one of those like, this has a chance to go in. Ball ended up going out of bounds, but what are your thoughts on just that go-to play there when the game's on the line?
I thought down was the right move to go. It's easy to say 2020 hindsight, it's always easy to say after the fact. So I don't want to criticize the coaching staff too much because it's not a terrible look they ended up getting. But I thought down was really impressive tonight with his decision-making in the pick and roll with whoever was down there, whether it was Foose or Kaba or whatever. He was making some beautiful passes. And we've seen him. He's kind of the most clutch player at the end of games. Like
he is. He's done it for 3 years now.
And
he's
the
most clutch guy on BYU's roster.
And so I think I would have liked it for him to get the ball, get him a screen, have him penetrate. Because we talked about it before the game in our preview was BYU, they need to attack the basket in this game. Penetrate, get downhill and get to the basket. And that's when BYU had their most success tonight, when Yegor was able to drive, when Down was able to get to the basket, because they were either able to dump it off to Foose or Kaba or even kick it out or just get an easy layup. It opened up the offense so much, and I think Down was the move there. But clearly Kevin Young and his coaching staff saw something they liked with Dawson Baker coming in. I also think it's tough for a guy like Dawson. He was in and out of the lineup so much. It's tough to it's tough to not be a little stiff and a little cold when you're sitting on the bench for that long, and all of a sudden you got to come in and take this last shot. I think that's a little tough, but yeah, I would have gone with Down there. What do you think?
I can't help but agree with you. My other thing, like maybe you want to go either Richie. He's your go to the end of regulation. He's the most points, that logically.
I just don't think I just don't like Richie going ISO or him hey, go get us a bucket in any situation. I think everything needs to be set up. I think not everything, but typically, especially at the end of the game when things are a little more intense, a little heightened, it has to be set up for Richie. I don't want Richie handling the ball and having to drive himself or go one-on-one.
I think that's fair. My other thing is like, look, your Foose baby hook is the best shot in your
Yeah.
arsenal, in my opinion, if you really, really want 2 points. And so I don't know why you had plenty of time. I mean, 17 seconds is more than enough to swing it. You can even get a switch on a screen, like, and then let him just go to work. And Foose had been, to that point, actually making good decisions, getting out of double teams and making sure he was. And Lovering had, the 4 fouls, and he wasn't gonna be too aggressive. I think, because I don't think he wanted to get out of the game, and that probably would have been my play call. But look, I'm not coach, and I'm not going to criticize it, because I think at the end of the day, you got a pretty good shot off, and he ended up even getting the ball back. Who knows what that play was going to, because Trevor Nell gets fouled before the ball even gets inbounded, and then has the free throws, and the story goes on from there.
Yeah, and then Trevor Nell at the free throw line just flat out misses it front end of the 101. Got to make your free throws. Simple as that. Nothing to analyze there. And then there was Yegor gets the ball, gets the rebound after the missed free throw, goes down and takes that one-footed shot or whatever at the end of the game, misses it at the buzzer. To be honest, I know we're Yegor apologists to the umpth degree on this podcast, and he didn't play great tonight by any means, but I mean, it was fine. That shot doesn't bother me at all. Whoever had that ball in their hands right there should have taken the last shot. It was just a matter of Kevin Young said in the press conference, it was a busted play. Just get a shot off. It was an okay look, and you got to live with it. I mean, you have no timeouts or anything. It's
5
just
seconds, no timeouts. He missed the free throw, so like you're really scrambling. And look, who do you want taking that shot? Like 5 seconds scrambling on the court, probably Yegor. I mean,
yeah, you'd probably want to go Richie or Dallin. I mean, in an ideal world, but it doesn't matter. It's just get the shot off, and if you get a decent look, you kind of have to live with it. That's not one to pick apart too much.
No, there's a lot more to pick apart that got them in that situation.
Yeah,
in the first place. Free throws.
And BYU had their chances to close this one off. I mean, they had the ball, up 3, in overtime, and they kind of could have sealed it away and just couldn't get it done.
Gave up an open 3, and you go from there. The scariest part to me, I don't know if scary is the right word, but I think there's not a lot I could have been like, you just should have done this better. Look, you should have made your shots. You can always say that. Quarterback should hit every throw, whatever. Just the game should be played like that, but it's not how it works. Should have made your free throws, and then, like, what else could you have done? I think defensively, obviously, you need to get on the glass. I think they overhelped in a lot of places. The helping from the strong side, Carter, was driving me nuts. And I think even to Kevin Young, the pressure, he's like,
yeah, we overhelped.
Look, when there's a strong side post up, you can't leave the guy standing 5 feet away at the 3-point line to go help. That's an easy.
It's like the easiest pass ever.
I mean, in the post, he's staring right at him.
It doesn't matter how bad the player's court vision is. I mean, it is right in front of your face. Like, oh, easy dump off right there.
If you are weak side and your guy's standing way in the corner, that's your job to go help. But BYU did it, I swear, every time, to the point where I'm like, are they coaching them to do this? But then Kevin Young's like, I thought we overhelped. So I don't know. I don't know what's being said in meetings, but from my perspective, that's
going to show up on film.
Killing BYU.
Yeah,
defensively in the second half, especially when they were feasting in the post.
That's going to show up on film before their game at Colorado Tuesday night, and they're going to be looking at that because, it was there nonstop, and it was giving Utah just easy looks tonight. In the first half, I thought they did a phenomenal job, though. Like, they limited shots, and they were playing pretty lights-out defense. You give up 27 points in the first half, like, you're not that upset, and I thought they played the effort was there. Then that second half, man, they couldn't get a rebound. They could not box out. They were overhelping, and they were just giving up easy buckets in the paint and just fouling nonstop. Let's talk about the bigger picture and what this means and BYU going forward right after this. Let's talk about this night, this loss, and this team going forward, Chase. Before the Oklahoma State game, we said, okay, all right, this is what it is. You've got Oklahoma State, you've got Utah, you've got TCU, ideally, I mean, honestly, TCU, Utah, and then you got Colorado. We said ideally 4-0, minimum 3-1 if you want to be a serious tournament, bid stealer. If you want to, make some noise, if you want to even be on the bubble, you got to go 3-1. Chase, they are 1-2, and they still have to go on the road at Boulder, which a team that's beaten a team like UConn at a neutral site in Maui. They've won some decent games. BYU has not won a road game yet. BYU has not won a close game yet. Where are your feelings right now on this team going forward?
Should one of us be the positive one and the negative one?
Good cop, bad cop?
I'm just kidding. It's bad. It's bleak. I think at this point, I mean, if you want to put odds on BYU to make the tournament, I'd put it like there's a 2% chance. I mean, it really is slim now. You had to do what you had to do. You didn't. Now you're fighting for going 2-2 in this stretch. And I've said this last week or when our last podcast. There's just no proof to convince me that this BYU team has the mettle to pull off what was seeming to become impossible and make a run here, to the point where I can't even trust them to go in and beat Colorado. Look, we probably should refrain from saying teams suck on this podcast. Heaven forbid it makes the rounds again. But look, it's a winnable game. I even think BYU has a chance to be favored in it.
Yeah, right? I still think Colorado's favored, especially after a night like tonight. And BYU's last a little bit. I would probably lean Colorado by 1.5.
Okay, but still, it's a
winnable game though. It's a coin flip game.
Yeah, but do I have any confidence? No, and why should I? Right, because all I've seen is BYU lose on the road, lose close games, and make the same mistakes over and over again. It feels like, and they feel worse than I do, and I don't want to be mean, but I feel like just banging my head against the wall. I think they feel the same way because you're just doing the same stuff. You're missing free throws and you're turning the ball over. Although throws weren't bad tonight, but you get my point. Like it's the same story it's turning into, and I don't feel confident that they're going to be a tournament team. I think now, we got to look towards what adjustments can Kevin Young make. What kind of coach is he when he faces adversity? And he's certainly in one right now. I mean, this is not what anyone expected to happen. This is, at this point in the season, a disappointment. They could completely prove us wrong. They can turn it around. They could make me look like a fool. And I hope they do.
Yeah, I was about to say, I hope they do too.
Yeah, but at this point, if you're asking my confidence level, it's how I feel. And I feel pretty justified in saying that.
Yeah, tournament. I said, what did I say? Did I say 35% chance?
35% chance.
Yeah, the stock price is taking a massive
taking a hit.
It was the Great Depression has hit on that stock price, and we are at rock bottom right now. I mean, it's at 5% right now. You got to win a lot of games and a lot of tough games. And Chase, you talked about I don't know if I can trust this team to go in and even beat Colorado. Well, do you trust this team to go on the road and beat Arizona? Do you trust this team to beat Kansas at home? Do you trust this team to go on the road and beat Iowa State? Because that's what it's going to take now. That's what this season has become. You put yourself in a hole right now. You got to dig yourself out. You know what it takes to dig yourself out? Winning on the road in Ames, Iowa, at Iowa State, at one of the toughest places to play. You got to beat Kansas coming into the Marriott Center. You got to beat Cincinnati at home, who's a solid team. They're another bubble team. And not to mention at Colorado. At Colorado is supposed to be your quote unquote easier games. That's not a thing at all anymore with this BYU team. Every game is hard. Every game's on Heisman difficulty for them.
As in the Stadium Pulse.
The Stadium Pulse is at number one, and it is at full blast.
Number one, and yeah,
every free BYU. It's like when you're playing college football 25. Every free throw for BYU right now is
squiggly lines.
Is the squiggly lines. The stadium's shaking.
The play call's wrong.
The play call's wrong. And then
the quarterback's cold.
and the lines are shaking everywhere, and the Stadium Pulse is 1,000 every single free throw this team takes.
It's bad. Look, I'm going to keep it a buck. If BYU wants to make the tournament, there's still a chance, but it's going to be like a survive and advance type. They could make a movie out of it if they were able to pull this off. It would take, like you said, huge wins, and it would take them. Basically, you have to go better than 1-1 every week. Obviously,
Yeah,
United start.
you gotta have a stretch of 4 or 5 wins in a row at this point.
Yeah, at the very least, like you have to do 3 wins in a row, at like 3 more times, which is not just hard for BYU, hard for literally any Big 12 team. Kansas already took a loss in Big 12 play. Iowa State took a loss in Big 12 play today, against who was it against?
West Virginia.
West Virginia, who good team. Guess what? You have a road trip where you play Cincinnati on Tuesday, West Virginia on Saturday, right? So, I mean, you can't afford to drop 2 in a row anymore or fall behind. Like, what BYU would have to do would be unlikely, spectacular, and borderline a miracle. So that's why we're like, I mean, some of you are like, some BYU fans right now are like, okay, we suck. Some BYU fans are like, well, there's still a chance. BYU somewhere in the middle. I think they're talented. I think they have good players, but you've been losing games, and they're really the chances to go to the tournament super slow.
The talent on this team is no doubt in my mind, no question, a tournament team. Just hasn't come together. It just hasn't. And we talked about before the season that there would be growing pains, and there's sure as heck been growing pains coming into this season already. Yeah, you look at the schedule going forward. You got at Colorado, home Cincinnati, home Baylor, at UCF, home Arizona. I mean, you got to go on a run if you want to even be in the conversation.
Is there a run in there, Carter, though? Are we Doctor Stranging it, seeing the 7 million outcomes? Do we see one? There's one in there. There's a run in there.
BYU making the tournament right now would be like shorting the housing market in 07, 08 is what you're saying. This would be the big short.
Well, that worked. That would be. I mean, when you talk next time, I might need to look up the odds right now on some of these books for them to even make the tournament, because it's got to be a long shot.
I'll get stats department
at
on
this
that
point. But you're talking about this schedule they have coming up, and I don't want to sound because I was all doom and gloom, literally just barely. But is there a world in which BYU makes a run here? Of course. I mean, it's possible. I'm just saying it's possible. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen. But look, I mean, Colorado, winnable. Cincinnati at home. Cincinnati's not turned out to be what everyone thinks. You have Baylor at home. They beat Baylor at home last year, and Baylor has had their ups and downs. You get to play UCF, who's bottom half Big 12 team. You get Arizona at home. At home, you feel confident. You play Cincinnati on the road after that. It goes on and on, where I think the stars have aligned to give BYU the schedule that a lot of Big 12 teams may dream of. But here's the problem. They've continued to squander it and just not find the wins. But if you want to be optimistic, if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm tired of these guys just bumming out and being over, look, you can, I'm sure this is what Kevin Young is thinking and telling his players. You're a few shots away from just only
being a ranked team,
have a one or two losses and being a ranked team and being a borderline lock at this point for the tournament, right? It's you think about Ole Miss, Texas Tech, TCU, Utah, these games where you're like, holy cow, there was a shot there. We had chances. In fact, you would think we win at least one or two of those, right? And you've lost all of them. Is that signs of we're just unlucky, it's right there? Or is that signs that we're taking it as you just have a hard time finishing games? Look, if you want to be positive, you can take that approach. And there's a run in there. I'm saying there's a run in there. I don't think it's going to happen. But if you want to be positive, we want to be positive.
If you want to be positive, there are a lot of quad one opportunities, but a heck of a lot has got to change, and it's got to change right now. And if you want to make it to March Madness, it's got to start right now. And also, with the Big 12 tournament, with how many teams are in this field now, you can't just – because the last year it was the bottom 4 that would play on Tuesday. So if you play on Tuesday at the Big 12 tournament, to win it all, you have to win 5 straight games. Cincinnati made it to the semifinals and still didn't sniff March Madness. They had to win it all last year. So winning 5 games is next to impossible in that run. NC State did it last year in the ACC. That was a full-blown miracle. They should make a Disney Pixar movie about that one. BYU is looking like they're going to have to play on Tuesday at the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City right now, Chase. And if that's the case, wave the tournament goodbye. Honestly, wave the NIT goodbye at that point. You have to get a bye in the Big 12 tournament for one to even have a chance at that. And right now, you got to rattle off a large number of these games. I mean, you got to win your big home games. You got to win some road games. It starts right now. And if it doesn't, you're not a tournament team, and that's what it is. And right now, they're not even close to the tournament. They're probably the 25th team out of the tournament right now.
Yeah. It's a long shot. I think you start to focus on other things if you're a fan or even if you're the coaches.
What are those other things?
It's a great question.
Yegor's draft stock?
I was hoping to ask you that. I think you look forward to, obviously, next year. You start to what I'm looking for as someone who covers the team with you, Karter, is I want to figure out who Kevin Young is as coach. What's he going to do? What's the changes he's going to make? Is he going to switch up the lineup? Is he going to completely reinstall an offense, because that seems to be the biggest struggle? Is he going to find a way to manage games better and win these close games? I'm looking for, can you pull off big wins? Can you just play upset to some of these guys? If Kansas, Baylor, Arizona, Iowa State, you have chances here to play against some of the best.
It's gonna be a point now where in some of these bigger games, when you play Kansas and at Arizona and whatnot, you're gonna be a decent underdog when it comes to the Vegas number. So you can pull off those upsets. Let's see if you're competitive in those games. Your one chance where you were a pretty big underdog, you were an 11.5-point underdog against Houston, you got the doors blown off.
Yeah. So I'm just looking to see what kind of guy he is, and I want to make it clear. I think he's a great coach, so I want to see it. I want to see the adjustments, the changes. You can also take a look at some guys that maybe can come back next year. I think that list grows smaller the more you lose, unfortunately.
And just how things are going.
But you can take a look at maybe some guys and be excited about them, such as Richie and maybe Dallin, right, as potentially being able to recoup next year, and with that amazing recruiting class they have, really see what next season is going to look like. But, if it's not the tournament, it's a bust, all right? There's no need.
Oh.
Don't settle for that, BYU fans. This is a tournament team, and you don't have it. You shouldn't be mad, but you should, don't be like, well, shucks, let's try and beat Kansas. No. You should have made the turn.
Oh, yeah. Especially with the investment that's been put into this team. And JT had a great tweet. I'll pull it up real quick. I can't remember. I want to get it exactly right. So I'll pull it up on the bookmarks.
It's a great tweet. While you're pulling it up, I'll just say this. This is potential to be one of the most disappointing seasons in BYU history. At least that's what some people are saying, and probably what we're thinking. But at the end of the day, we didn't know anything about this team because 70% of these guys are brand new. Maybe I think even more than that. And so we can sit here and be mad and talk about what could have been and what talent is on this team and what happened. But season's not over, one. And two, man, this is the nature of college ball. And if you take a look at some other teams right now going through the same thing. Cincinnati thought that they were going to be, preseason ranked.
Kansas State,
their tournament dreams are already dashed, completely dead. And it's just this is the nature of college basketball. It's hard to manage brand new roster, especially with a brand new coach. Just about everyone on the staff has been overhauled and completely new. And so we were driving the train of high expectations. So yes, it's completely on us. That was our.
So let me ask you this then. Last season compared to this season, let's compare them. Which team do you think is more talented?
This team has more individual talent.
That's why BYU fans should be and are frustrated, because last year's team definitely overachieved, that's for sure. But if you think this team has more talent, why is it not coming together, and why are they not at least a guaranteed tournament team? I mean, last year's team should have been a 5 seed if it wasn't for the Sunday rule.
Yeah, I think that's the question that we're all trying to figure out and answer. But my answer, if you gun to my head, I'd be like, let's just wait, just the way things happen sometimes. Sometimes Kentucky missed the tournament. Sometimes Duke had an off year. Sometimes UNC was a 9 seed. Like, sometimes it just doesn't come together. Sometimes that's just how it works. I don't know.
Yeah. JT said, someone said, you guys paid way too much for most of these guys. And JT said, when you have $100 billion in the bank, what's a few millions?
100 Billy.
Elite tweet by JT. He's been on Twitter, that's for sure. Shout out JT. Love you, man. Anyhow, let's answer some Twitter stuff and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah,
here.
this is gone.
This has gone on a little longer than I thought. Let's pop in here real quick.
Shout out everyone who commented. We love the comments and we love reading them on the pod. So keep doing it.
Shout out at Shrimpy Jacks. He commented 16 seconds ago, just made it in time.
Shrimpy Jacks.
He said, man, I know I missed the recording. No, you didn't. You're good, man.
Shrimpy.
We're right in there. Just so dissatisfied with and disappointed with this year. Don't even know what to say. It's just wild how football blew our expectations away. And while it's not over, basketball has severely fallen short of our expectations. 100%. 100%. Football overachieved for sure and basketball underachieved. And, I think a lot of BYU fans right now are just at a loss for words. And I think this, look, the TCU Texas Tech game, you go, okay, we can figure it out. We still got time. You lose to your arch rival who you should be better than on paper. And I think that's where a lot of BYU fans are going to figure it out tonight is one of those season-defining moments of, you know what, maybe this team just doesn't have it.
Yeah. Agree with you, Carter. Agree with you, Shrimpy Jacks.
Shout out Jack Carpenter. Saw you at the game tonight. Appreciate you coming up to us. At Jack_Carpenter5, he said, bruh, words cannot describe the generosity of my fast offering if we pulled that one out. Obviously no excuses, but 30 free throws, ? Gonna go eat a slice of pizza. Gonna go eat a pizza.
Not a slice.
No. I messed up. Gonna go eat a pizza the size of my head and watch Avalanche and Nuggets highlights so I can feel something. Obviously, Colorado sports fan right there.
Shout out Colorado.
Yeah, I think the fast offerings might have been quite substantial of BYU. What do you think the fast offerings were after that BYU Utah football game?
Oh my gosh! I think the church attendance. I would love to see the numbers on that.
I'd love to see the church attendance numbers.
Wild.
All of a sudden, it's like Christmas Sunday. You're like, huh?
Like, we ran out of sacrament cups. This is insane.
At Utah fan, should Kozlowski be given more of an opportunity? I don't know. That's tough. I mean, he's young, and I feel like Kevin Young has kind of dialed in some of the guys he trusts more. And some of those younger guys, it's just they're not going to get that opportunity this year unless things go really south.
Yeah. By the way, that's Utah fan, as in I think Utah sports fan. I don't think that's a Utah Ute.
No, he's got a Jazz thing.
He's got a Jazz picture. So, look, maybe there'll be a point in the season where you want to try out a lot of guys when things are officially dead, although it's pretty much at that point. So maybe it's time, giving guys like Kozlowski and guys a chance because you have this roster full of who we think are really talented guys. I mean, we saw Boskovic get some minutes. That's another thing. I really don't understand why some guys get minutes, some guys don't. Trey Stewart got a random stint, and then we never saw him again. Same with Boskovic.
And that's hard for and it's not even a slight on any of these dudes. It's just tough whenever you're getting these hodgepodge minutes, and it's tough to get into rhythm in those moments, especially on the road in a tough environment. That's why these great teams, these top teams, they have an 8-man rotation that they usually don't deviate from, especially in these big games unless foul trouble comes into play. And it's tough for those guys trying to come in there. Do you want to read some, Chase?
Yeah, let's go with Kenley Bond.
Shout out.
It says, love Yegor, but if he's a top 10 NBA pick, he's got to take over in this game. KY needs to run plays that lean into Yegor's advantages. Tired of watching this team live and die by Traore post-ups. I think that's the season-long complaint, right? I think what we've seen from Yegor is definitely not up to our expectations. And the offense has been just the biggest disappointment of
stale, stagnant, no flow, no rhythm.
Yeah, and when you're playing insurance companies, Yegor looked amazing, and it was every tweet was about him, and NBA scouts were just drooling.
Those NBA credential requests are going down by the game.
Yeah, they are. And look, you're playing higher competition, but he can
that's the thing. He can turn it on, and the NBA game does fit his game more. It's just he's got to figure it out. Oh, and he's got time. There's a lot of games left. He's got time to figure it out for himself and pump up his NBA draft stock. But yeah, it's been disappointing so far. Nothing much more to add for me.
It's been disappointing. Let's go with Irving at Irving Dector. They lost the game at the beginning of the second half due to terrible defense in those minutes. I agree with you, Irving. I feel bad for Yegor. He's just 19 years old and far, far from home, but he is improving. Again,
dead on.
I absolutely agree. In fact, Yegor's 18. He'll turn 19 in March. So he's very young. Yeah, he's a long way from home, and I think he's not. I don't know. He's not used to losing one, and he's not used to. I think maybe the style of even basketball is different than
style of basketball, the physicality of it in the Big 12 and college basketball, and yeah, it's tough. It's a weird adjustment, and obviously he struggled with it so far. But I think Irving nailed it, and you do feel for him a little bit. But when you have those expectations on you, you kind of have to deliver. So it's tough.
A lot of money.
At BYU guy 32, Latter Day Coug, just said, "I'm sad." I think a lot of BYU fans feel the same feelings.
The saddest part for me is it's like making an amazing cake with all the ingredients, and then you just end up burning it, and you're like, I can't even enjoy it now.
Or you dropped it.
Or you drop it, yeah, and you're like, oh, that had the makings of it's gonna be really good, but you're just sad. And if you're just I just love watching basketball. Like I said, you watched Yegor 2 months ago, and you're like, holy cow, this is just fun to watch.
Yeah,
this is pretty. And now you're just it's sad because it doesn't look the same.
The talent is there, and I don't know if the injury had something to do with it, but it hasn't come together quite yet. To be honest, in my opinion, what I think's wrong, I think it's just a confidence thing. I think it's as simple as that. I think his confidence has been shot early on, and it's tough to build that back up. And hopefully we see that very soon. Hopefully that changes very soon. So let's move on. At E_win24, EW, he comments all the time. Shout out. I know February is a gauntlet and lots of opportunities are there, but that's now 3 losses in this month, and we're very winnable in an entirely different conversation. I'm questioning the toughness of this team. Many times where they build a lead and immediately lose it. I mean, that's exactly what you're saying, Chase. So
absolutely. So I very much agree with you, EW. Yeah, sometimes you want to win more than you want to breathe. I think that's what makes the greats the greats.
Strictly Utes said, what makes you think you guys know ball? You want to respond to that one?
Dang, Strictly Utes. Well, if you actually listen to the podcast, we were actually pretty, I don't want to sit here and brag, we actually were pretty spot on about how this game would go.
Yeah, we did.
We weren't the one. I mean, we did look, say Utah wasn't very good, and I'm not going to change my opinion.
Am I allowed to say both teams aren't very good?
Absolutely. Yeah, Utah is not great. Neither is BYU.
I think I might have gotten the score right.
I mean, if you would have been very close.
It was I said 70 to 70 something, and it was a 1-point game. So
look, Strictly Utes, because I know you're listening. I think Karter and I have been pretty good about what we've been talking about. We did say how this game was going to go. We did say what BYU needed to do. We saw what worked. We saw what didn't work. We've talked about what they need to do differently. They do it differently. They look better. I'm not saying that we're all knowing about this team and what we say goes, but hey, I appreciate the comment, Strictly Utes.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's watching. He's paying attention to our page. So shout out you.
I think it was just because of the JT clip, but yeah, disappointing loss. You got Colorado on Tuesday. We'll be back doing a preview for it. Long pod tonight, though.
Long pod. Boy, it didn't feel.
It didn't feel very long. It didn't feel very long, but
it was
getting back from the Huntsman Center.
It was a long night too. The guys take a while to come out after games, whatever, and the Huntsman Center. They let you linger around there, and Tom Homo got up to speak at the podium and was. Oh, actually, no, he didn't do that. Wild. The 80 did not show up at the press conference. I was actually shocked.
That was good. That was good, yeah. We could have done this. We could have probably done this a lot sooner if our producer would have brought in the equipment.
Produce. Dang producer, man.
Yeah, dude. They need to fire that guy.
So, who's your GOAT?
MJ or LeBron?
MJ or LeBron.
Do you think the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl in 2026?
Dude, what does this game have to? Is it going to affect LeBron's legacy?
Yeah, we're just going to start doing first take. That's we're just going to start doing first take. I can be Stephen A. You want to be Shannon?
I'll be. Never mind.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. It's getting way too late. It's midnight Mountain Time right now. So hit that subscribe button at Church Ball Pod on everything. We'll still be here all season long, despite what the record is, despite what happens. If this is a bad season and this continues, well, come sulk with us all season long. If it's a good season, come celebrate with us all season long. We'll be here the whole time. And make sure to hit that subscribe button at Chase_Rogers0, at Karter B8. Check out all of the Field of 68 stuff on all their social media pages.